Hello, Laziali all over the world. Welcome to the special episode of Lazio Lounge. 2 weeks, and Serie A finally starts. Lazio played another friendly game on Saturday against Burnley. We have plenty of things to talk about. Who's going to play in the first game of the season against Como, who, last year we beat easily away 5-1, but this year it's going to be a very challenging game. And they said that they announced that their goal is to finish in Europe. So are they going to be one of our rivals going forward in the season? And another 1-0 victory, it's always a win. So Alison McKenzie, we're always happy to see Lazio winning, even if it's a friendly game. Plenty of things to talk about. We were mentioning before that it looks like the old Sarri team, right? The old Sarri Lazio. Not scoring a lot of goals, but at the same time, not conceding goals, which is always good, right?
Yeah, I mean, it certainly looks like it's going to be very different to the Marco Baroni Lazio team we saw last season. Certainly looks like I've been quite impressed, to be honest, how quickly he's picked up what's been quite a different team over the last year and molded them back into something that's very familiar and looks like the team that he left behind. And yeah, I think the preseason has been pretty promising. I think it was important to finish with a win. I say finish, there's one more game, but I mean finish this cycle of, the big friendly games against Fenerbahce, Gala and Burnley, because we said after the Turkey trip that it was, despite not actually winning either of those games, it was quite encouraging as preparation. But I think it's important as well to show that this team can go and win games this way. And Burnley, Premier League side, okay, they've just been promoted. They may well get relegated again, but they are a Premier League team, decent opposition, and I thought that it was a good test, and kind of built on all the stuff we mentioned probably last week in Turkey. A lot of encouragement that wasn't a one-off.
Yeah, before we start talking and going deep in this friendly game, we have to thank Lazio Philadelphia, who become a new Patreon. Thanks, guys. Really appreciated. Just to mention, to tell everybody that now you can pay 1 year in advance. So you have the full year subscription and you have a huge discount doing that. So, I mean, instead of renewing every single month, you can do a year-long subscription. It's just up to you. Patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts at $2 a month. And we do an extra exclusive pod just for memberships, Q&A where you can ask us pretty much everything. Alasdair, again, Cancellieri probably player of the game, at least for Lazio. Great performance, and not only because he scored, but he had a good performance. First half, second half. Surprised to see him still on the pitch in the second half, but I think it was the right decision. He scored a great goal. And I mean, beginning of the summer, we were thinking, will Matteo Cancellieri will be still at Lazio at August or end of the summer? Now the discussion is, will Matteo Cancellieri start against Como or be on the bench, right?
Yeah, and at the moment he has to be the first choice to start on the right wing because he's not going to be ready. He's unfortunately had this illness and missed all of pre-season by the signs of things because it's been some sort of virus. He's going to have to pretty much start building up his condition from scratch almost once he's ready to, and then before getting back into match fitness. And the only other option really has been tried there has been Nosling, who I think we should maybe get onto in a bit because I think he has actually looked all right, I think, as well on the right wing. But Cancellieri, I said right back whenever it was 3 or 4 weeks ago when we did our first kind of summer podcast that he is as close as we're going to get to a summer signing, him and Cataldi, because we got two guys coming back from loans and that's as good as it's going to get. But the amazing thing is it does actually feel like a summer signing, and he's actually had the kind of impact that you would hope to have from a summer signing as well. Because he, like you say, he's been the major talking point of these friendly matches has been his impact. And in this case, a match-winning impact. He also hit the crossbar with a header earlier in the game too. I think you can see the use of him tactically for Maurizio Sarri. If this is going to be the way we continue to play, staying compact, defending deep, and trying to use strike runners and counter attack quickly. His physicality, his speed, his pace, that is going to be a huge asset for Maurizio Sarri to have in that with that idea in mind. So I think it's been a great impact. And at this stage, Vittorio, he has to start, doesn't he? In 2 weeks' time, I can't really imagine what can happen against Atromitis in Rieti that is going to take a starting shirt out of Matteo Cancellieri's hands at this point.
Only an injury, I think, and crossing fingers this won't happen, even because Alasdair, the season still didn't start, but we have already a lot of players on the bench injured. I mean, Belayan, Vecino, there are 2 players that are fighting for a starting spot in the squad, weren't available on Saturday for the game. And your friend Gigot hardly played a game so far. Patrick, who knows when he's going to be able to play. You mentioned Isaacsen. I mean, we already said that this team hasn't got that much depth. With 5 players missing, it's getting problematic. I mean, just to give a little bit of context, Basic had to play at the end of the game because we didn't have any more options in the midfield. And I was really looking forward to see Belayan play. I was thinking maybe against Burnley, he could have maybe start instead of Delebashiru come in the second half, because we know that Sarri is testing Belayan in that position, and we needed to see improvement. We needed to see where the player was. So it was disappointing to see he pick up an injury. Vecino, again, last year, he missed so many games due to injury. That can be a serious problem, right, Alasdair?
Yeah, because that position, that area of the pitch looks very thin very quickly. If we're using 3 central midfielders, and so far Sarri hasn't done anything to suggest he's going to alternate. We had questions in the last podcast. I wonder if he might try something different in this game at some point, the Burnley game. I wonder if he might, try this 4-3-1-2, for instance, that's been talked about. But no, it seems that this is how we're going to start the season, with the 4-3-3. And with 3 midfielders there, Guendouzi, Rovella and Delebashiru are going to be the starting 3 because they've started every game so far together. Sarri's clearly wanting them to get as much game time as possible together. But yeah, like you say, as soon as Vecino picks up an injury and Belayan's out, there's so few options left. Toma Basic has been given a lifeline here. He really has, and he has to take it. I mean, if he has an opportunity to actually be a part of this Lazio squad again this season, it's an opportunity that he would never have got had this transfer ban not happened. But it is an opportunity, and that's what's kind of fascinating about this season, isn't it? Is what makes it so interesting to watch, is because players are getting opportunities like Cancellieri who may not have done otherwise, and Basic could be one of them too. Not to mention, well, there's all sorts of players, I guess, who could have been replaced. But we talked about before the transfer ban happened, priorities this summer. What we need is a right back, or at least a full back, a central midfielder, and a winger. Well, in Cancellieri, we've got a winger. In Catalvi, we've got another central midfielder. We don't have another right back, but what we do have is Prosgaard actually starting to play regularly, which feels like almost like a new signing because he played so little last season. It's not what we'd hoped for, but it has actually at least felt like it's bulked up the options a little bit. But yeah, I do agree with you. I think that midfield is the main concern, because when physical issues start popping up there, we're pretty short pretty quickly.
Can I ask you what you think about Delebashiru performance? Because he started again against Burnley. He played a lot in that game, even because we didn't have that many options, as we mentioned before. What's your judgment on his performance?
I think it was probably the best one so far. I think the most complete, perhaps. But I think we're starting to understand what to expect and what not to expect, right? I mean, I think so far Sarri has prioritized solidity, the organization, keeping this team really tight, really restricting the options that opposition teams have when they're in possession. And I think Deli Bashiru has been a big part of that. I think actually in terms of this team keeping its shape off the ball and having that kind of a bit more muscularity, he's got good legs, good engine. I think that he helps with that tactical side off the ball, the defensive side of the game. But what he's not going to do is basically add what was missing from a midfield with Ravella and Guendouzi, which was goals. And that's kind of what we needed, was that kind of like spark, that bit of creativity, kind of a fantasista, Luis Alberto number 10 style player. We all felt we were kind of lacking someone in that mould. Deli Bashiru, I don't think he's that player. It's not to say that he can't have moments, and I think in this game we shouldn't undervalue the part he played in that goal, because he did really well actually to keep the ball under pressure and move it up to Pedro. But I just don't think he's going to be the guy breaking the lines, getting into the pocket, scoring screamers from 30 yards, all the things you would hope to see from a number 10. He's not that guy. So I think it depends what your expectations are. I think that he played quite well if our expectation is he can do a job for this kind of like being a cog in the Sarri machine. But I don't think he's going to be the player who wins us games by himself. What do you think?
No, I totally agree with you. He's not bringing quality to this team, which is lacking massively of quality. He's bringing physicality, which can help, obviously, because in modern football is important. But we already have Guendouzi close to him. We have Rovella or Cataldi. So probably we don't need that. So it's going to be difficult to see Lazio playing like we saw the last time Sarri brought us the second place. So quality, a lot of talent there, etc. Yeah, he had a decent game, but again, you are expecting a number 10, and he's never going to be. He's going to be a physical player who maybe can cut into the midfield, the opponent, but he needs to improve his feet and bring more quality. That's why I wanted to see Belayan, because Belayan is definitely not as physical as him, as Dele Bashiru, but has good feet. He can move the ball fast, quick enough to create space and chances. So that's why I wanted to see Belayan. The other thing, Alasdair, is we didn't concede goal, but let's be honest, Burnley hit the post 4 times in that game. Provedel made a good save in the first half. Our defense didn't play really well like we saw, for example, against Galatasaray, right?
Well, they kept a clean sheet, which is good.
Yeah, but
Provedel made a couple of good saves, and I think you've got to give them credit for it. But yeah, you're right. It's not like they didn't kind of shut them out. But it's a strange one, isn't it? Because you keep a clean sheet in a game where you gave away quite a few chances, whereas against Gala, we conceded twice despite feeling like we actually defended quite well otherwise. Which can happen. I mean, Burnley it was a useful test, I think, because you're playing against quite a physical, direct team themselves. They played quite differently, and 3-man defense. They were trying to launch all these big diagonals, and I don't know if they'd done their homework or if that was just what they like to do anyway, because that has clearly been a weak spot for Lazio last season. This cross to the back post that we've talked about and complained about for a long, long time now. I was encouraged early on because one of the first times they did that, Nuno Tavares actually got back across and managed to intercept it for a corner. And I was like, oh my God, I don't think I've seen Nuno manage to do that for a long time. So that was good. But yeah, I think that kind of thing, those diagonals, those balls to the back post can still be a weakness. And I think also what we saw in Turkey and then again here is that defending at set pieces can look a bit wobbly as well. I don't know if that's a kind of zonal versus man marking kind of issue or what, getting used to something different or what's going on there. But there are a few weaknesses. I do think, considering he's changing the entire defence during matches, it's hard to be kind of it's hard to be critical, really. Like, if you keep a clean sheet and you've used 8 defenders and 2 keepers in a game, then good on you, because that's a good effort to keep that kind of cohesion throughout the game. And I think it shows that structurally this team is built on quite good foundations now. So I'm not too worried about that.
Do you think the fact that Sarri changed all pretty much defense in the first half, at the end of the first half, and didn't make any substitution in the other roles? I think only Cataldi came in instead of Rovella. Give you an idea that he's still not convinced, he still hasn't got his starting lineup in defense? Or do you think it's just rotating a little bit?
I think the preparation's probably been slightly derailed by Romagnoli's suspension, because he knows that he can't just rely on Romagnoli and Gila from the start. I'm more and more convinced that it'll be Gila and Prosgaard against Como now, because I don't understand why else he would be pairing them together over and over and over again, because they keep playing as a combination. And also, if you think that if it were to be Marisic over Prosgaard, that creates another difficulty, because Prosgaard is playing on the left and Marisic has been playing on the right. So that would then mean either Marisic is moving to the left or Gila's moving to the left, where they've not really been playing that much. So I do think he's probably going to lean on Prosgaard there for the opening match, because just for the sake of that combination. But Marisic has just been an experiment worth doing, because over the course of this season, we're probably going to need him there at some point. But yeah, looking ahead to Como, I think it would be. I think he's going to want Marisic a right back for a start, because the other right backs. First of all, we had Lazzari not being particularly impressive in Turkey, and then we had Husay almost scoring a pretty spectacular own goal against Burnley. So I think he might see the value of Marisic as a right back, and in that sense want that with Prosgaard and Gila alongside him for the opening game. That's what I feel.
With Nuno Tavares on the other side.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, as I said, especially in the first half, we didn't defend well. We improved much more in the second half, and I don't know if this depends on the substitution, or maybe in Burnley getting a little bit tired, or thinking already about the first game of the season that will be next week. So they will start the season 1 week earlier than us. But yeah, I'm curious. I don't think Sarri is already set it there. We talked about Cancellieri. You mentioned a little bit about Nosling. I thought that Nosling, when he came in, he didn't play that much. What was it, 12, 20 minutes, something like that. But I thought he played well. He made a nice pass to Castellanos, who had created a good opportunity. Even in Turkey, he played very little, but looked more convinced, etc. Do you hope that Sarri will change his mind on Nosling and giving a real opportunity, or do you think he already decided? And I mean, this morning there was rumors that Nosling could be out of the list in Serie A this season.
I mean, that to me would be crazy. But the list is too big at the moment. This is the problem. But I think we need him. And to be honest, yeah, like you say, I think he's actually made a good impact, and he's being used again in a different role. He was signed as a striker, so started there last season, then was moved to the left wing, which is where Baroni decided was his position. And now Maurizio Sarri's come on and has decided he's a right winger. So he's the guy is being moved around the attack a lot. I'm still surprised, and this was another one of the things we wondered might this happen in Burnley, was will we see Nosling get a chance as a striker? But clearly Sarri still wants to have a look at Tati, have a look at Dia, work out, right, what's our best option here, what are their different qualities. And Nosling doesn't seem to be in that discussion. And I think he's shown glimpses of why, because I think in those one-on-ones he can be very dangerous, good at getting past defenders and putting a cross into the box, and maybe as a kind of impact substitute off the bench that could be pretty useful. But then the question is, what happens when Isaacson comes back? Because you would have thought Isaacson is towards the top of that that kind of hierarchy on the right wing. So is Nosling there to be a kind of versatile player, a joker who can play anywhere in the attack? But if that's the case, why is he not played anywhere else but the right wing? So to be honest, I'm a bit confused by the whole thing, because I feel like Nosling has played well enough so far to merit a place in this squad. I feel like it would be a shame for him to not have a place in the squad for next season. But I feel like the best thing to do with him is try and find a place he's most comfortable. And he's, like you say, he's not getting many minutes. So that makes that harder for me. It's a bit of a strange one.
I'm going to shock you with this. But seeing how Zakani is playing and see how Nosling is playing, I would try Nosling on the left and start him and see how things go. Because I thought he played, I'm not saying amazingly well, but he created chances in the few minutes he played in all these games so far. Let's not forget that against Avellino, he created the penalty with a nice dribble pass. He looks much more dangerous and focused this year compared to the last year. On the other side, I'm seeing a Zakani who's far away from his form. And, I don't care about the penalty. Yeah, it's a friendly game. It's okay to miss penalty, obviously. If it was a Serie A game, that would be completely different. But I thought, penalty apart, Zakani was not good enough to start on Saturday. You have Nosling in this condition. Why don't give him an opportunity? You're not going to sell Nosling, right? We paid him so much. You're never going to get the money back this season. Putting him out of the squad would be crazy because, again, you're going to lose value for a player and you're not going to be able to sell it next summer as well. So he's going to stay. Give him a chance. Zakani is not playing great. I'm not saying he needs to start instead of Zakani all season long. But looking forward, thinking about Como and thinking about the condition of a player, for me, Nosling is the better option right now rather than Zakani. I know a lot of our listeners will be screaming hearing me saying this, but seeing our performance, I think it should be the right choice.
But the thing is, he's not being used there. Like that's what confuses me, because I can see where you're coming from, but and also the thing that's confusing is Sarri does like to have the inverted wingers, so he's using Pedro and Zakani, right-footed players on the left, and he's using Isaacson and Cancellieri, left-footed players on the right. So why is Nosling always playing on the right? So it doesn't make any sense to me, because I can see where you're coming from. I don't think Nosling's done enough or had enough time to really merit starting the first game ahead of Zakani. I'm not sure about that. But I think it would have been a much more fair contest if he'd actually been considered the alternatives to Zakani from the start and given a bit more time there, especially if he spent all of last season doing that. Because this is the reason you're mentioning this, and the biggest talking point really for everyone at the moment is where are the goals coming from here? I mean, it is a problem. We've had all these friendly matches and none of our strikers have scored any goals yet. 0 goals from Tati and Dia combined after four friendly matches. It's pretty poor, and not all of those games against top class opposition. And we've always had a bit of a problem with our current wingers in terms of how prolific or not they are in front of goal, their inability to be reliably scoring a huge amount of goals in a season, and the midfield isn't providing goals. So the compactness and so on, it can get you a long way being well organised, and we saw that in Sarri's second season, because that's kind of what that team was built on. But the difference, which you mentioned right at the start there, was the quality, because back then we could at least rely that when those chances come, we've got Ciro there to finish, we've got Felipe Anderson on the wing, we've got Luis Alberto taking a shot from outside the box, and so I don't think we can rely on the same output here, and that is a concern. I don't really see where the goals are reliably coming from here, whether it's Nosling or Zakani.
The funny thing about this is in the other games, Tati always started, and I thought Tati didn't play well. When Dia came in, Lazio started playing much better, creating chances, etc. Against Burnley, Dia started, and Tati came in later. And I pretty much said the same thing. Dia didn't play well, didn't create any chances. Yes, just a penalty one, but was pretty much invisible. When Tati came in, we had much more opportunity. He had two headers. Pedro had a shot, etc. I don't understand. I mean, you change strikers, and the result is just the same. Who starts doesn't create any opportunity. It looks like he's invisible. Who comes in instead looks much better.
I
What's
think
going
they
on,
need to be.
Alistair?
Well, I think they need to be together, and I think they've got used to being together. And I think they almost rely on being together because they were far more dangerous when they played alongside each other. And whether that's as a two up front, whether that's with Dia as a more of a number 10 player, I think those guys have got used to that formula, and they're not really used to leading the line by themselves. And the last time we saw Tati leading the line by himself was as the Vice Mobile under Maurizio Sarri when he basically failed, and that was when people were asking for him to leave the club. So this is a problem because I think if the two strikers you've got are unable to lead the line by themselves, which is a difficult thing to do in a 4-3-3, but if they're not able to do that, then what do you do? We can't sign anyone else. So the only thing you really can do is try and change the formation, but that's not going to happen because Sarri is always pretty set with the 4-3-3, and certainly to begin with now. So the only thing I can think of is that he's wanting this squad to get as familiar as possible. This 4-3-3, where we keep things tight. We try and take our chances when they come. We don't lose games, right? Let's hope to win games, but we don't lose games. And we try and take that to the September international break, when maybe we've got a few more injuries back, when Isaksen's maybe a bit further along, and hope that by that stage, people are a bit more advanced in the training. We've got a bit more options in terms of who's available, and at that point, he could work on something else. I don't know, but at the moment, I don't think Tati and Dia are going to be able to operate as single strikers. I think they need each other.
Or they need a better Zakani.
Yeah, or like a winger who can come in and play as a 10 or help them get closer to them, because this is written as a 4-3-3, but it's mostly a 4-5-1. Like, it looks like that a lot of the time because they're so wide of the midfield three, but the striker looking isolated, and that's happening a lot. So, I mean, Sarri doesn't need to be told this; he can see it. But it's I'm struggling to see how we resolve that problem other than getting the two to play alongside each other.
Yeah, but this will change the scheme, so it won't be possible. And obviously, we are talking about this team defending well, being very tough, tight. If you play with two strikers, then you're going to lose everything. And I don't think it's going to happen. Maybe Dia on the winger, well, could be a solution, but has it been tested? No, not at all, right? So I don't know. I don't see it happen. One thing.
Someone wrote to us. I can't remember if it was on YouTube or Twitter where it was, but I remember seeing someone writing to us suggesting we play Tati as the left central midfielder. What do you think of that?
Well, I was saying that one of our issue is our midfield. We don't have quality there, and one of the problem I thought, because Dia didn't create nothing in the first half, is that we didn't put the box in the ball in the box in the first half, and a number 9 can go back to midfield and take the ball and run on inside the box, right? He needs assists. He needs something, and we were mentioning Dele Bashiru will never be that player, but even Guendouzi won't be that player, right? He said this season I need to score more goals. I want to score 4-8 goals. It never happened so far. So why would it happen this year? I thought playing Cataldi instead of Dele Bashiru there could be a solution. He's more able to provide assists and help our number 9, because they need help. They're already not at Ciro Immobile level, so they're going to struggle on themselves. They need help, and we are not providing them help because Cancellieri is playing well, but he's not enough. Zakani is pretty much invisible. You mentioned Nuno Tavares. He didn't do nothing offensively in Saturday's game. we need much more from Nuno Tavares. I mean, Lazzari probably did better than Nuno Tavares Saturday when I'm thinking about attacking. And that's an issue, right? Nuno Tavares was a weapon for us last year. He needs to be back at that level because otherwise, uh, you know, we are playing against Como in 2 weeks' time. I think Como will find a way to score. I'm not sure we will find a way to score against Como. So there's an opportunity that we're going to lose a lot of games 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, 1-0, instead of winning 1-0, 1-0.
And end up back in that situation where if you're behind in a game, it's game over.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which was where we ended up doing this last time. And that is what worries me, Vittorio, with this approach, is that was the case with a much better team than this team. And that's the worrying thing. So, Sarri is a smart coach, and like I say, none of this will be new to him. Like he'll be able to see 10 steps ahead of what we're seeing. But I think copying, pasting what happened last time won't be good enough with the squad, I don't think. And
No.
I think I can understand, like I said, I can understand if this is this is where we start from. You got to have a foundation somewhere, and if the foundation is to build a solid base, make it difficult for teams to break you down, try and hit on the counter attack. I don't mind that as a starting block, as long as we develop it. As long as we find a way of developing that, having different ideas, making this team a bit more dynamic. If you can change formation, if you can bring players into different positions, whatever it is, like you say with Tavares, that the worry there for me is that I hope he doesn't. I like the idea of training him to be a proper defender, but I hope that doesn't come at the expense of his attacking qualities, because we saw this with Isaacson in his first season with Sarri, where when a player gets so overloaded with information and tactics and things, I think he lost that kind of freedom of expression, I think, a bit, and he seemed to always take the safe option for a long time and would kind of go down the wing and think about it and then turn around and pass the ball back because he didn't want to make a mistake. And I hope that we don't see that kind of thing from Tavares. I hope we still get to find a way of using his explosiveness.
Do you think Lazio is playing a much more direct football compared to the older Sarri team? And do you think this is the reason why is we lack of quality, so we try to go direct? I mean, we saw in the last game long ball from Provedel, Mandas, even from our defenders, trying to bypass our midfield and go directly to our number 9 or to our wingers. And we scored pretty much with one of those direct passes in the past. Do you think Sarri is trying to change a little bit and adapt to this team, to the strength of this team?
Yes. I think we've also seen the team kind of play in a few different ways, depending on different halves of different games have been played in different ways. We had a comment on one of our videos saying it would have been useful to have a friendly match against a team that sits deep, the block defense that we have to break down. I think Burnley kind of are one of those teams. So that is a test I think we just had, but I don't think the performance was necessarily all that different. I think second half they moved the ball a bit better. That's been a bit of a problem so far, hasn't it? The speed of passing, this kind of stodgy possession, and that did happen last time under Sarri quite often too. So I think we need to be careful. It's all looking a bit familiar, basically. It's amazingly familiar, some of this football to what we saw previously, which can be a good thing because that team finished second, but it can be a bad thing, as we saw in the final season when he ended up resigning. So, so far I think that he's been trying to get the team to do different things, and sometimes that's been let's try and build from the back, keep the ball, progress our way up the pitch. Sometimes that's been let's go long, let's draw them in, and I think we'll only really know what his overall idea is once the competitive games start, because we always have to remember pre-season is for experimentation, isn't it? It's for trying things out.
There's something we didn't mention, and we usually don't mention on our podcast. I don't know if you saw what happened with the third kid, Lazio third kid. That was online. What was it? Last week on JD Sport in UK, and then 2 days ago it was available in a mall in Rome. You could already buy the third shirt before it got announced, and it got announced a couple of hours before we start recording a podcast. This summer is by far the worst summer for a Lazio fan, right? We're making mistakes after mistake.
And we've brought out what 3 kits, and 2 of them have been accidentally leaked early
By the Lazio store official. So incredible. Not only, but
Yeah.
the first day they were out, our socks were put at 112 euros, which was unbelievable price for the socks. So yeah, we didn't do nothing right.
I didn't see that. 112 euros for the socks.
Yep, very expensive.
Wow. Special socks. Yeah, it's funny, isn't it? It feels like everything's just happened at once. It's all just kind of completely, everyone's lost their heads. Although I did see one piece of promising news. We'll wait to see how true these things actually are. But I saw another quote from Onorato on this, continuing this story about the Stadio Flaminio and all this, which we mentioned after the protest had happened, this meeting with the fan delegation and the council and so on. And supposedly this week he's come out and said that the paperwork that was needed will be in by the end of August. Vittorio, do you believe this? Is this going to happen?
I mean, I think he said a couple of months ago that the paper would be sent before the end of the week. So I don't believe it that much. So I hope, because I mean, it's crazy, Alasdair. It's not. I mean, we talked a little bit about the bureaucracy in Italy, which is crazy compared to England, etc. So we know it's going to take ages to do it, to get the approval, etc. But if Lazio already delayed everything, it's unbelievable, right? We should be doing everything as soon as possible. Instead, we are taking time. And this is crazy. Yes, you know it better than me. In August, nothing works in Rome. But, if you could present the plan in June, we could be starting in September, and get the approval maybe in October and move forward. Instead, if we get all the paperwork end of August, well, it won't get approved before October if we're lucky. So we are losing time.
Yeah, I mean, that was my first thought. It was like, if this happens by the end of August, it will be the first time anything has ever happened in August in Rome.
Yeah.
So I'd be very impressed by that. Yeah, we'll see. I think, if anything, it's good to see it being talked about so much and talked about by people who are actually involved in it, and not just random people discussing it. Because
Like
the more momentum, the better, probably. But they are still relying on, a lot of steps before we see anything happening.
Well, for people who are not aware, the Stadio Flaminio now, it's property of the mayor of Rome, and it's collapsing, as we did the video, what was it, this year or last year. So it's in the best interest of the mayor of Rome to give it to Lazio. So you take care of this, because it's falling down and we will have to pay it. So I trust that the mayor of Rome have all the interest to help Lazio in achieving and get the approval for this project, because otherwise they're going to have to pay the cost of keeping it up and not using it. So I think it makes sense for both parties to get this project rolling. But you have to present the plan. And this is where it drives me crazy, because if I was Lotito, I would have presented them on February, on March, and so on. So this is really annoying, Alasdair. Yep.
Yeah, and then even beyond that, because it's kind of the urban plan, it's about how fans are getting in and out from the stadium, it's about the environmental impact. All these things are just littered with complications. Like ask Roma, there's going to be a lot of problems which are going to arise after this process starts. So getting the process started isn't the hard part, is it? The hard part comes afterwards, when you're trying to actually cross all these hurdles in front of you to get to there. The sooner we can actually get started, the better.
Yeah, it's true that if we get approval, Then there's the Euro that's going to be played in Italy, and trying to pick up the stadium, and Flaminio could be one of them. So this would definitely help Lazio. But we have to move, and it doesn't look like Lotito is in a hurry. So this is really concerning, Alasdair. Alasdair, we're going to have our next game on Saturday, the last friendly game before the season starts. I don't know the opponent, honestly. I don't know which league they're playing. They're Greek, but I don't know which league they are.
I did look them up earlier. They do play in the Greek Super League, so the top Greek league.
Okay.
They finished 7th last season, so they were in the Conference League playoffs, so kind of like a mid-table Greek team. And I saw they just played Derby County and lost 2-0, and Derby County are a championship team in England. So I think they're not like a joke team. They're a proper team, but not one Lazio should be losing to. Put it that way.
Anyway, we're gonna do another podcast after this game next week, and to preview even the start of the season for Lazio, which is gonna be really interesting. Thanks to our Patreon for your support. I have to say, this is the second podcast in a row where you don't mention a Scottish player. I'm astonished. I don't know what to say, really.
And in the week that one was nominated for the Ballon d'Or, so it's incredible self-control going on here.
Wow, unbelievable! Really, really, I don't know what to say. Thanks, Alasdair, for joining me. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll be back next Monday. Please rate and review the podcast, and take care.
Cheers.